Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to another Fallout 4 mod review. Today, we are checking out the Commonwealth Rust add-on pack, also known as CRAP, by the Fallout 4 Story Expansion Project, otherwise known as Pignus. Now, this mod did release a little while ago, however, it just hit its 3.0 release, where it has a bunch of new features, including some DLC integration, some really cool unique weapons, and it's a lot more than just some rusty add-ons. So I wanted to cover all of the details in this video now, and show off some of the features that make this mod special. So for starters, with the namesake Commonwealth Rusty add-on pack, this is going to add rusty versions of every single vanilla weapon into the game. And the way that these are going to function is they are rusty, broken down versions of the normal weapons. They are going to function differently as well. Aside from the cool texture overhaul that's going to make them appear super rusty, some of them are going to do less damage, have lower fire rates, in some cases even have a lower magazine capacity to say that maybe there is some gunk in the mag. But overall, these weapons are just going to perform worse than their standard counterparts. That being said, you can find them earlier, and in some cases you can actually download this as a replacer so that you will find them in place of the pipe weapons. So you can have this either as a standalone that will add in these weapons separately, or you can download the replacer version which will replace all of the pipe weapons with just crappier versions of the regular weapons, which I think is a pretty cool idea. That being said, if you do download the replacer version to replace the pipe weapons, keep in mind that some of these rusty variants are going to perform better than the pipe versions because the pipe weapons were intended to be a level 1 drop, and some of these, despite being worse than their standard counterparts, still outperform pipe weapons by a long shot, meaning that the early game with the replacer version can be a bit more difficult. Although I do think that a lot of you guys out there prefer some difficulty in your game, so maybe that's a good thing. Now, these weapons don't have to stay rusty forever. You can actually find yourself some rust remover, and if you head over to a chemistry station, you can convert the rusty weapons into their normal counterparts. That way, instead of needing to find, say, a high-level assault rifle, you can find it a little bit earlier on as a rusty assault rifle, and then find some rust remover and make it a lot nicer. Additionally, there is a brand new vendor over at the Rotten Landfill where you can purchase all of these rusty weapons. I'm assuming that he's been digging them out of said landfill, and that's why they're in such poor condition. This is a nice cheap way to get just about any weapon you'd want to get your hands on, though it is going to be the rusty, crappy variant. Additionally, the robot, who is named Rusty, has some cool unique voice lines, which is always a nice touch.
Hey, you there, civilian, do you want junk? I sell junk.
On top of all of the regular vanilla weapons, there is even a rusty version of the Deliverer called the Rusty Covert Pistol, which is essentially a non-legendary variant that you can now find out in the world, kind of similar to the Covert Pistol mod that had come out so long ago. Now, if you upgrade to the 3.0 all DLC included release, there are also some new unique variant weapons that you can find out in the world that don't exactly pertain to the rusty nature, although one kind of does in particular, but the other two are pretty normal. The first of which is going to be the Marshal's Rifle. This is going to be a unique lever action that says critical shots do double damage and the critical meter fills 15% faster. So this is going to be a wonderful crit weapon, and you can find it over at Mad Mulligan's Mile in Nuka World. Up next is the Project U235, which is going to be a unique radium rifle. Its unique effect is that it does more damage the lower your health is, and it's also going to irradiate the user when they fire the weapon. And I gotta say, this is going to provide an awful lot of radiation damage every time you fire this thing, but hey, that lower health is gonna mean you're doing more damage with it as well. If you want to get your hands on this one, it is located all the way at the end of the Sentinel site. And then finally, there is the People's Resistance Rifle, which is going to be a unique handmade rifle from the Nuka World DLC, and it's going to ignore 30% of the target's damage and energy resistance. So it is going to absolutely shred through armor, and this thing has a beautiful paint job on it. If you want to find it, it is located in the boss room of the Federal Ration Stockpile. Now, really quick, there are some important notes as to how this mod actually functions. If you take a rusty variant of the weapon, customize it and put different attachments on it, and then use the rust remover to upgrade it to the regular version of the weapon, it may remove or randomize the attachments you have on it. This is just something that's going to happen, so be aware not to keep all of your really fancy attachments on there. Try to make it back to its standard variation, then use the rust remover. Speaking of rust remover, there is a stash of rust remover you can find very early on in the game if you want to get your hands on some. In sort of a cheatsy manner, it can also get you all of the different weapons added with this mod. This is really probably more for bug testing, but if you want to know where it is, I'm going to go ahead and tell you now. If you don't want to know, tune out. This is going to be a very big spoiler warning. Alright, so if you're gonna cheat, basically, and use the stash of Rust Remover and all of these weapons, you head over to the Wicked Shipping Fleet, and if you head to the South Warehouse, there is actually a note that is going to lead you to a stash of all of these weapons, with a nice little bit of lore behind it. The note basically explains that a large stash of weapons were lost in a fishing accident and ended up dumped at the bottom of a lake. There is a toolbox underneath said note full of a bunch of the Rust Remover, and if you head to the nearby lake, you will also find a stash of all of the weapons now completely covered in rust. Now again, this is a bit of a cheatsy way to obtain a whole lot of weapons that you can then clean up, but to be fair, they are the rusty, crappy versions, and you're going to need to use your precious Rust Remover to get them back to standard functioning quality. Again though, I think this is intended for bug testing and just making sure that everything works. I wouldn't entirely recommend you using this in a survival playthrough. It might be a little bit broken. Altogether though, I think this is a wonderful idea for an immersive way to expand on the vanilla weapon system while using a lot of the vanilla assets. It's definitely a very interesting one, and it adds some variety to the weapons that you find out in the world. Now, instead of just a standard 10mm, you run the risk of it being a regular one or a rusty one, which is going to perform much worse. And it definitely makes the early levels of the game very interesting. Additionally, there are a lot of patches for this mod that will affect other weapons, for example, my Immersive Combat Rifle mod, as well as the Wars 1911, and hopefully Pig will go on to other weapons in the future. That way you can have rusty variants of all of your favorite weapons in your load order. Though that is something that would take an awful lot of time, as there's a lot of texturing work going into that, so stay tuned and just see if they come out. Either way, this is a super cool and interesting idea, and I highly recommend you try it out for yourself. This is available for both PC and Xbox with all of the DLCs included. I will have links to both down in the description below. It's important to note that those unique versions showed off earlier in the video are only available for the DLC version of this mod. So if you are using the standard version with no DLC, you are only going to get access to the rusty weapons as well as the vendor that sells them and all of the normal upgrading features. But if you want access to those uniques, you're going to have to get the all DLC version. That's going to include not only the unique variants located in the world, but also rusty versions of the Radium Rifle and Handmade Rifle that can spawn in the leveled lists. Just wanted to make a disclaimer in case anybody got confused on the download. You're going to need the main version as well as the DLC version in your load order for this to work. So if you want to try them, go ahead and head over to the Australian part of this video and check those out. With that though, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to drop a rating. Subscribe if you haven't already for more videos just like this. Go check out the mod and show the author some love, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace! And really quick, I'd like to make a shout out to all of our patrons. Your donations are greatly appreciated and really help to support the channel and videos just like this one. So again, thank you!